Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. Thanks for stopping by. If you like what we make here, please do us a huge solid and hit the like and subscribe button down below. We also live stream the podcast every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central, and I host a video game live stream on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central, so come by and hang out. If you're feeling extra giving, please check out our Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the show. Mind Gap Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin.
And we're glad you're here. I said...
I feel like I haven't thrown one of those in a long time.
You haven't. You know,
Yeah.
it always catches me. And I honestly said Mind Gap Podcast way too fast. I'm pretty sure I said Mind Maps, like it came out way too fast. So I'm going to go back and check out what I said because
Okay, yeah.
it was
You want to go back now and check it out? Or do
If you want to,
do that?
just go back 15 seconds and check it
Yeah.
out and see what I said and then get back to me and let me know. Did I say it too fast? I feel like I did.
Then we'll wait because you can go back. You go back 30. No, you go back 15, forward 30, right?
Yes.
So we'll wait 30 seconds so you can go back 15. That doesn't work. Hold on. We'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Nothing but professionalism all the time, every time.
Every fucking time.
And speaking of which, I want to apologize. There was no episode last week. And let me tell you why. There's this thing called the internet, and it's run by Comcast, and it hated me last week. It hated me real bad. And my upload speeds were garbage for the stream. And I forgot to hit record before we went live. So since I would have had to pull down the video/audio from YouTube, and since it was the upload speeds were shit, we wouldn't have had anything. So by the time it maybe leveled out, it was like 8:45 our time, which means we would have had to do like a really short podcast. Justin was like, listen, man, you seem like you're on tilt right now. Maybe this isn't a good idea. How about we just call it? And I'm like, yes, fine. And then we actually kind of had our own offline podcast. We just talked to each other.
We did. We talked till about 10:30. Like
Yeah.
it was. We did a full episode still. We just didn't record it.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of relationship you got to have. If you're going to start a podcast, be able to give each other honest, constructive criticism and feedback. And I told Doug, I was like, hey man, look, I know you and you're going to focus on this and you're not going to be present and you're not going to have fun. So it's best if we don't do it. And Doug's response was, thank you. That's the guidance I needed.
You're right.
Like,
Because
yeah.
I would have been really salty about everything that happened before. I would have been paranoid about everything that was happening. I don't think I would have been able to actually focus on anything we would have been talking about. And I was like, let's just call it. So apologies for there being no episode. Know that it was not intentional. It happened. It was the butt of a joke on one of the Jackbox games about how Doug cancels podcasts without telling anybody. And I laughed, but I also died inside a little bit. So thank you.
I cried
for that.
a little.
Cried a little.
Yeah.
So, yes. But excited to be here this week. We've got some good stuff to talk about. Before we do that, let's get through a little bit of housekeeping. First things first. If you're looking to support this here podcast, let me tell you something, Pilgrim. Let me tell you something.
How can they do that?
There's a couple ways you can do that. Number one, if you're feeling so generous, head over to patreon.com/mindgappodcast, and you will find yourself an option, two options, if you will, to support this podcast. You can just donate $1 a month, or you can donate $5 a month. Either way, we'll be happy with that. And you could join the ranks of such beautiful humans, such as Wolfslore, Tom McIntyre, Richie Armour, Zinni, Slotty Bartfast, and of course, Almighty Crit. You could be one of those people. You could be the names that we say at the top of every podcast. That could be you if you wanted to. Just it's all we're saying. And maybe you're like, Doug, that's great. Subscription, it's a long-term commitment. I'm not a long-term commitment kind of person. I kind of like a one-time purchase. But I also want to support you. Well, guess what? We have merchandise. That's right. We have goodies brought in on the wagon train all the way from Kansas City to the West Coast, where then they will be shipped to you via Amazon. I don't know who ships it, but they will do that at redbubble.com. Type in Mind Gap Podcast, and you will find yourself several designs to choose from to support this podcast. And you can get the Mind Gap logo on a hat, on a drawstring bag, on a t-shirt, on a shower curtain. Fuck, whatever you want. Just slap it on there and be like, woo-wee, I like this. Hey, everybody, check out what I'm wearing. Check. You want to shower at my place? You got someone special you want to shower and show them your support for this podcast? Bring them on over and be like, these are my boys, Justin and Doug. You can do that. Support your local podcast, Mind Gap Podcast, redbubble.com. Last but not least, if you're like Doug, times are tough. I don't know if you saw what the VIX was on the stock market, but it was up today, which means volatility is high, which means shit is going down. People are shorting stuff. Value is going down. Doug, I don't know if I can afford all this. Well, I have good news for you. All you got to do, click like and subscribe. YouTube.com/MindGapPodcast. It costs you literally nothing, and it means everything to us. Subscribe, like, and if you're feeling so worthy, drop a comment in there. Help the algorithm. Get it going. And we would appreciate you for that. All right. Now that we're done with that.
I was so late to this game.
Do you know the secret to making...
Nope.
Whoa, what was that?
Nothing. I was getting something prepped. I couldn't get it pulled up fast enough, but I was hoping that it was still going to be going on. I just...
I love this.
I just wanted this to
You're going to have some, like, old-timey tavern music?
Exactly, yeah. Just harmonica was about to kick in and everything, yeah.
Yeah. I love how Sly's like, I love that this is still going on.
I know. I should have pulled it up quicker, Slotty. That was a wonderful bit. That was wonderful.
I felt like it. That's about the only... And even then, that accent kind of comes and goes. So, but that's the one I feel very comfortable in. If you want, come check out our Discord server. The link is in the description below. Check it out. Come join us. Come game with us. You can meet all the cool people like Noah, Slotty, Zenny, Almighty Crit, Wolfslore, Jared, all those cool people. Come join them. Come hang out with us. We'd love to have you as part of our community. We talked about that. And then last but not least, like I said, YouTube.com/MindGapPodcast. We live stream our podcast every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central. And then also, I host a video game stream on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central. And last Saturday was a real treat because I busted out the Jackbox games. And Richie Armour from You Haven't Heard This Productions joined us. That crazy fuck. It was like 2 a.m. his time in UK, and he played with us for 2 hours. No. We got done. He's like, well, it's about 4 a.m. my time, so good night. And he took off. But we had a really, really, really good time. It was so much fun. It was silly. It was filthy. It was really great. If you want to check out that, you can check out the past live streams on our YouTube channel. And get ready for this Saturday because someone requested it. And God damn it, I love fulfilling requests. We're going to play Ultimate Chicken Horse, which is the game that is kind of like my nightmare. But God damn it, we're going to do it. It's a platformer that you build as you go. So you can play with up to 4 people, and you design the level. And if it's too easy and everyone gets through, no one gets points. If it's too hard and no one can get through, no one gets points. So you got to make it hard enough.
Talking about this one
that you can get through and hopefully do it faster than everyone else. And it's basically my Vietnam. It is a real nightmare for me, and I will be doing it the full 2 hours, while other people will probably be popping in and out just to make room for other people. So please come check that out. Oh, we got some people saying, you love fulfilling requests. Where's Spyfall, Doug? Where's Among Us, Doug? You're right. Those will be coming up next weekend. Oh, I forgot. So this Saturday, Ultimate Chicken Horse. The following Saturday, April 16th, C2, who we've had on the podcast before, will be joining us for a game night of What the Dub. So, yeah, get ready for that. That's going to be a blast. That C2 is amazing. She was a writer at Second City, like for a writing show that I was a part of. That's how I met her. She's an excellent improviser. She does an amazing stream. I cannot wait to see the shit that she pulls out there. Where's Mysterium? I'm with you guys. We need to spend more time in tabletop. You got it. All right, we're putting it on the list. I'm excited.
You've been heard. You've been seen.
I see you. I hear you. So we'll probably say April 30th is when we'll start doing that. So we'll probably do Spyfall, Among Us, and Mysterium. That sounds awesome. What about C4? What about C9? What about Among Us?
We also got something else fun coming up this weekend on Saturday.
Yes, we're actually going to be recording an episode of You Can't Do That Anymore. It's with Blake and, God damn it, I forgot the other guy's name.
Terrence.
Yes. They do a separate podcast where they cover different movies, shows, and things that you used to watch, but if you watch it now, you're like, probably can't make that anymore. And Justin and I are going to be going over Goonies, which is going to be a lot of fun. So we'll be recording that on Saturday. We'll keep you posted when that's posted, and be sure to check that out, which will be really, really cool. Yes. All right. So that's housekeeping. And now it's time to say, Justin, how was your week, man? How have you been?
Now it's time to finish the podcast.
And now it's time to finish last week's podcast.
To wrap up. Week was good, man. I was back in Chicago this last weekend filming a sketch with Signor Vellucci. Ooh. And so, yeah, it was fun. I got to first time traveling back into the city to shoot when I wasn't a resident of the city. So it was fun to get back there and to see a few people. Haig came and acted as our PA.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was a good time. And I got to we went, came in Friday night, and a few of us went out to grab a couple drinks and kind of catch up and see each other. And as I stayed at Vellucci's house, we came back to his place. And he's like, there's this sandwich shop just down the road. We were both hungry. And I was like, cool, let's go check it out. And blanking on the name of the sandwich shop, but when we were in there,
Subway.
That was it. Thank you. You've heard of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was really good. Their bread was very, very good. Well, bread in quotes. But no, while we were in there, they had a movie on the TV, and Vellucci was like, what the fuck is this movie? I'm like, immediately, without missing about, like, that's Over the Top. He goes, what? I go, Over the Top. Well, Sylvester Stallone. He goes, I've never heard of this movie.
You mean the arm wrestling movie?
I said, he's a truck driver / arm wrestler that almost loses his kid, but then wins custody of his kid back in an arm wrestling tournament in Vegas. And he goes, wait, what? And I go, yeah. He goes, we're finding this when we get home. So we sat down, we ate sandwiches, and we watched Over the Top. And let me tell you, I haven't seen the full movie in a long time. It stacks up. That movie holds water.
That movie's something.
My
favorite deep dive in that is How Did This Get Made, when they cover it, because man, they break down that movie real well, and I'm like, this movie is bonkers.
Episode 69, and I is currently behind a paywall, so I was not able, because that was the first thing. I'm like, I wonder. So on my drive home, I wanted so bad to listen to that, but I could not. But
that is an episode that I've listened to many times.
When they do the over the top move, and I'm like, so Vellucci and I were like, all right, let's see if this works.
Let's do the math.
That move is so hard to do. That move is so impractical.
Yeah.
We stopped it, we rewound, slow motion. It's the most absurd. We're like, there's no way that anyone. Also, I'm fairly certain that there are so many rules being broken as far as like arm wrestling rules, with guys not even using the bicep, just like pivoting and pulling on the arms. I'm like, none of this is legal. Also, this draws that big of a crowd, hard pass. And I'm sure they all covered this in that episode, but he arm wrestles one other time prior to the tournament. One time prior to the tournament, and we're supposed to believe he's some savant for arm wrestling.
Yeah, right. No.
But the movie's amazing.
Slotty says he makes over the top references at work that nobody gets.
That's why you fit in with us, Slotty.
That's why you're
part of our family.
That's why you're here as a Mind Gap family, because we appreciate you. You're the best.
A gapper.
You're a gapper. Yeah. I had a great weekend. For weeks now, I've wanted to do this. I was like, is this the right time? We've been doing, we started a family movie night, and we've on Fridays, which is just sort of kind of perpetuated. Like every Friday, we sit down as a family and watch a movie. But a lot of it was because, Encanto's out. Let's watch that. Oh, Spider-Man No Way Home is out. Let's watch that. And then I'm like, oh, that's the new movies. And now he's like, so we're doing family movie night? I'm like, I guess. I mean, I don't think there's a new movie out. I just refuse to watch one of her shitty kid movies. So, I don't know. I was just sitting there looking at stuff, and I almost did it last weekend. But then I was looking at it this week, and I was like, this could be risky. But she just finished up a week studying dinosaurs. And I was like, Natty, do you want to watch Jurassic Park?
Oh, not where I thought you were going. But
I didn't watch Rampage. No.
Damn it.
But I was, because she watches like Jurassic Park, Cretaceous and whatever, which is
Sure. All that
based
shit
on
shows, yeah.
Jurassic World and everything like that. And she's watched the trailer for the newest one that's coming out in June or whatever. She's just fascinated. I was like, do you want to watch the original, like where everything came from? And I go, listen, this movie's probably going to be a little scary. So if it gets too scary, seriously, let me know. We'll cut it. Like, we'll stop. Like, I don't want you. I remember watching this movie when I was like 10 years old and being like, kind of freaked out with like the T-Rex and the raptors and shit like that. I got the Dilophosaurus.
It's a dark little movie in places for sure.
Yeah, I was like, so she goes, yeah, I do. And she fucking loved it. She got scared a couple times, but she fucking loved it. Tonight.
Had to have been the raptor scene. That one's intense.
The raptors chasing the kids got her a little scared.
I'm talking about Sam Jackson. When he goes, or no, sorry, not Sam Jackson.
Oh, Laura.
When his arm falls or whatever. Like
she was hiding, so she didn't see that part because like the raptors were coming out. That kind of scared her in that sequence. The Dilophosaurus, when it gets like Nedry.
It gets Newman.
Yeah, it gets Newman basically. I was like, hey, just so you know, this part's kind of scary.
Right.
But she was a champ and she handled it really well. Like the favorite thing is too, is I turned up the music really loud, the audio really loud. So when the T-Rex part happened and the first boom, I just turned to Natalie and I go, Natalie, what was that? She goes, oh. And then she like, she just, I was like whispering to Jill. I was like, Jill, look at Natalie. Natalie's just going, her eyes are just, and she's just, She's like, and then they look and the goat's gone. She says, where'd the goat go? I go, exactly.
You're asking the right questions, kid.
Exactly.
Hang in there. Did she did she understand the context of like that was the thing that this was building up to?
I'll give her credit. She's like, Dad, how do mosquitoes, what was that mosquito caught in? Like, how did they make the dinosaurs? I'm like, great question. They're going to answer that momentarily in this little cartoon. Like, it's going to be perfect. I'll explain. You won't understand it, but they're going to explain it. And my favorite thing is just the question that she asked days later.
Yeah.
Because the one thing she was really focusing on was the opening scene where they're trying to put the raptor into the raptor pen. Okay. And, basically the raptor moves back, catches one of the guys and eats him, as they're trying to put him in. She's like, Dad, why were they putting their raptors in there? I was like, well, the raptors have to go in a special place, which now upon rewatching it, I'm like, that raptor pen is really small. Like,
oh yeah,
those raptors would absolutely hate each other. Like, that is the worst living situation for those raptors. I'm like, how many are in there? 3? Right. That's a tiny living space for those things, man. But she's like, why do they have to go in there? I'm like, well, they just can't let the raptors roam around. Those things will murder everything. She's like, well, why? I was like, do you remember the brachiosaur? She goes, yeah. I go, they would totally try to eat those. Like, so she's very logistical. She's got a practical mind, which I'm like, that's my girl.
Well, let me explain to you the predatory scale.
She's been learning about herbivores and carnivores and stuff like all this stuff, she gets. So I was like, this is perfect. She's going to love this.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And tonight after dinner, I was like, hey, let's watch a couple of cooking shows. She's like, well, then can we watch Jurassic Park? I'm like, no, we can't watch Jurassic Park.
She wants to watch it again.
She wants to watch it again.
You can say, hey, Natalie, you know what we can watch? Jurassic Park 2.
Oh. I actually, as much as I thought it was it was a movie, was Jurassic World. I think she'd probably enjoy that, because she plays with those toys.
Is that that's the one with Pratt, right?
Yeah. I was like, I remember watching the movie and being like, yeah, okay. And then just moving on. It wasn't, it's fine, but, meh. But she plays with the Indominus Rex. She has a giant toy of that and everything like that. So I don't know. It could be fun. Cool. We'll see. But part of me was like, she's 6. Is this what she wants to watch? Like, is this? I was like, oh, because I don't want to be that parent. I really don't want to be that parent. I was like, I'm really desperate to watch.
Forcing your shit on her.
I'm really desperate to watch these movies with her, but I'm also cognizant of like, if she doesn't understand it, I don't want. I'm happy like with some throwaway movies she can watch and whatever we can talk about later. But like Batman, I'm like, I don't want to pull Batman out yet. Like.
Right. You got to find the right time for that because you don't want to, first off, you don't want to spend that bullet, right?
Yeah.
Too soon. But also you don't want to scar her with it so that she has no interest later on. It's a very delicate dance.
Because some of those things are much more cerebral. Like, we could watch, hey, dinosaurs, rah! It's fine. It's fun. It's whatever. It's exciting. But to talk about the nuances of the Joker and why his, anarchistic views like are interesting to human nature. It's like, I don't know. She's like, why? Because I have Joker posters in my office. She's like, Dad, what's the Joker do? I'm like, he's a bad guy.
Right. Well, he laughs a lot, Nat.
Like, why? We'll talk about it when you're older. And the best part, too, is, we were going through Apple movies and everything's alphabetical. And, right before J is I. And there's It, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And she sees Chapter 2 is just like white with, Pennywise's eye. She goes, that one looks funny. I'm like, you think that's a funny movie? I go, let me tell you something, kid. It ain't funny. And when you're old enough, we can absolutely watch that. But I'll tell you what, that one will give you nightmares. Guaranteed.
Yep. This one is off limits.
Yes. I love Slotty goes, Dear Practical Doug, what is the correct number of raptors per square foot? Well, I'll tell you what, it's got to be bigger than that stupid ass pen they put in that movie because goddamn. Goddamn. The T-Rex had way more. Obviously, it's a bigger creature, but still, like these raptors, man, it was like, I don't know.
They run. They need space to run.
Right.
That's their thing.
Yeah. It's like, it's brutal.
Thing.
I would argue it's just the worst living conditions for those raptors. Yeah. Wasn't
I would like can we submit requests for movies to show Natalie?
Sure.
Can we have like the listeners and myself? I'm gonna submit Inception. I'd like to get Natalie's take on Inception.
You mean have her watch it right? The thing is she won't sit through all that. And
I don't know that. She may take to it like a fish to water.
I doubt it. There's just certain things where I'm like, because I'll be watching a show and she'll be like, ooh, what's this? And I'm like, you're not going to hang around for this. You're going to be bored. It's not going to do it for you. She's not going to understand Inception and like, so they're dreaming and this is another dream within a dream. And it was these, they're trying to steal. They're trying to put an idea in this guy's head. And
this guy's got daddy issues and...
Yeah.
Ooh, Slotty wants to know, have you tried any of the Harry Potters yet?
Yes, we've watched the first 3. Okay. She was a big fan of the third one. The fourth one, I think she's watched some of, but that one got a little scary towards the end with Voldemort. Yeah. We haven't watched anything beyond that. I'd love to watch more of them with her because I think she'd really enjoy them, but haven't gotten all the way there yet. But man, I just like, as she gets older, I'm like, oh, look at these movies we can watch.
I'm curious why kids seem to have, there's a never ending fascination with kids about dinosaurs. And I think it's awesome that it's been going on forever and it spans generations and genders and everything. And it's just one of those, like everyone likes dinosaurs when they're younger. And I don't know, Beth she had a 2-year-old class that she taught, and there were kids who came in and their lovies were dinosaurs. And like this kid was fucking smart, like 2.5, 3 years old. He was naming, you showed him a picture of a dinosaur. Like, yeah, that's the whatever Dilophosaurus or whatever the fuck it is. And he knew the names and he knew and I'm like, this kids love fucking dinosaurs. Yeah, man. It's amazing.
I know, and I'm honestly excited. I'm taking Natalie to Disney World here pretty soon, and the one ride I'm excited to take her on is Dinosaur. Now, I've also warned her. I'm like, listen, a ride's going to be scary.
Which one is that?
That's at Animal Kingdom, right in the Dino Land.
Okay, I don't know if I went to that section.
It is. It's really fun. It's one of my favorite rides. I was like, listen, it's going to be dark. It's going to be bumpy, and there's some scary ass dinosaurs in that. Okay, like there's a giant Carnosaurus that comes out. It's like it stumps out and it goes. It's huge, and at the end you're like going down, and there's a big stationary thing, but it's got a strobe light on it, so it looks like it's coming at you. I was like, listen. I even showed because they have 4K videos of these rides. I showed her the ride because I'm like, listen, I need you to know what you're walking into because she's pumped about it. I'm like, this is great. It's going to be scary. I need you to know this, okay?
It's different when you're watching it on screen than when you're immersed in it.
Yes, and I also told her, because she's tall enough to ride pretty much any ride at this point, which is awesome. I go, you're also going to go on Mom and Dad's favorite ride, which is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. We're all going as a family, all right?
There you go.
And we're going to have fun. But specifically the dinosaur one, I'm excited just because, again, I agree. Like, there's something about it that just fascinates kids. Yeah. And I couldn't miss out on an opportunity to be like, this is one of the greatest movies with, again, I'm listening to the score. I'm like, John Williams, you fucking genius. Like, God damn it.
Yeah. Just the GOAT.
So good.
I wish that you guys could get like a 2-hour pass, not even a day pass, just a 2-hour pass to go to Universal. Yeah. To take her to the original Jurassic Park ride. When Beth and I were back down that was it No, I don't even remember what it was. Whatever the hell we went down last time to Florida. We got because of my job, we got passes to Universal, and we checked out all the Harry Potter stuff, which was amazing. And then as we were walking around, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been on this ride in years and like decades. Like, we got to go on this ride again. And so we went, and it is the most dated ride that has not been updated since the 90s. And it is just perfect.
I don't remember, because I know they've updated. There's maybe I'm thinking Islands of Adventure. That's probably what I'm thinking of. Because
you might, yeah.
Because there's definitely an updated version there. And I think even now they've updated it with Jurassic World stuff, where there's really cool stuff that's in there now.
Not on this one. This one is still like, you still got, I think you might still have like Newman's voice running around.
Oh boy.
The T-Rex comes at you, and then like you go to, it's the water ride.
Right. Yeah.
Like and look, maybe I missed something, but like, yeah, the animatronics are like, the water's like it's even, I don't know if they've refilled it since the 90s. You can see like the hydraulic lift that the dinos are on. It's really janky, but I'm like, this is awesome.
This is fun. Brings back memories.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That smell.
Yeah.
Just that water, stale water that's been sitting
there.
For
Yeah.
30 years. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Well, yeah. So
That's
Jurassic
awesome.
Park, check. Done. Exciting.
One of the few movies that holds up as far as the CG goes too.
Honestly, like,
what do we're actually, I think next year's didn't it come out in 93?
Yeah. So we're coming up on 20 years.
30 years.
30 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to say, like,
and
watching
CG
it
is still fucking great.
I look at that and then we immediately watch like a trailer for the newest one. Obviously there's a difference, but it's still solid given the time. Like, it's really held up.
One, in 30 years from now, will that hold up?
That's
because
the
reason is they did so many practical effects.
That is true.
The two, and that was what was key.
Well, also you got to realize there's a lot of sequences where like the actors are acting against nothing, and they do a phenomenal job. Like
in the original.
Yes, that's like incredible how they're just like sheer terror, and you realize, oh, the camera's just pointed at them. There's nothing behind them, you know.
Right.
And they're like, just Laura Dern's like losing her mind. I'm like, oh my God, they're just like, all right, something really scary is here. Go. And there's other times where you can see the animatronics. I'm like, that's fucking terrifying. Like, that's, really, really scary. So,
so good.
Yeah, so good. So, what just recently happened? What quote unquote holiday did we just have, Justin?
Oh man, it's your favorite holiday, my favorite holiday. I think everyone who tunes into this podcast, it's the national holiday to end all national holidays. It was April Fool's Day.
That's right.
April Fool's Day.
One of the dumbest holidays out there, and I mean that. And I'm also keeping in mind St. Patrick's Day. I'm keeping in mind Valentine's Day. Because the thing about April Fool's Day is I always forget about it because that's what it wants you to do. They want you to forget about it.
It's a very unassuming holiday.
Yes, it's because it's not really a holiday. It's just a day. And I always think of it because it's my mom's birthday. So I'm like, all right, April 1st. And then inevitably that day rolls around.
You ever fucked with your mom on her birthday?
No, because I'm a good human. Because I never once was like, you know what I should do? Ruin my mom's birthday, as much as I wanted to. No, it's just such a dumb day because I forget about it, and then big news announcements happen, and then you have to realize, is this bullshit or not?
Yep, absolutely.
Always what it is. And most of the time, the people that like to participate in this quote-unquote holiday are some of the most unfunniest fuckers out there. They are not creative. They are not funny. They do jokes. They're like the guy in your office who's like, hey, dude, I'm going to tell you a joke. It's like, that's racist. You shouldn't say that. With like, ha. And just, it's the fucking, the should have been blowjobs of the world are out there just ruining everyone's day. Because they are not clever. Because it's the same people that think they're funny and they're like, I could do stand-up, and they go to a stand-up show, and as the comedian is performing, they're like, blah, and they start heckling or trying to contribute because they're like, this is what I do. It's like, shut the fuck up. You're not funny. You don't know how this works. Stop talking. But then you got assholes. They're like, and they're like, I'm going to make this real great for everybody. And they ruin it. They ruin someone's day.
Yeah.
And
we were talking off mic. I despise the holiday less than you do, but it is still a holiday in which I think I share the same opinion. There are a lot of people, the should have been blowjob people, who just big fucking swings and misses, gigantic swings and misses. I'm a fan of the ones. Wendy's has pulled a few good things out in the past because Wendy's doesn't miss when it swings. Yeah. There's a few other people, and it's usually the ones that make the news. We're like, and so, the fluff pieces at the end of every newscast, and they show them. And there's some people who do some really fucking creative things. I was always, it always was an aggravating holiday I say holiday loosely, holiday for me, because I always wanted to come up with something good. I was always racking my brain trying to come up with something good, and I never could. And guess what? I didn't participate. If I couldn't come up with something good, I didn't just fart something out there.
Force it.
I didn't force it. Yep. But it's those people like we talked about who, and then there's other people who, have come out and said like, hey, just FYI on this holiday, pregnancy is not a funny thing to do April Fools about. Death is not a funny thing to do April Fools about. Job loss, whatever, yada, yada. There are certain topics that people go to because it's by default. Like, Mom, Dad, we're pregnant. Really? No, April Fools. That's not funny. That's not funny. And there has a lot of emotional repercussions for certain people.
Emotional damage.
There's emotional damage. Yes, for some people tied in with that. And prime example was brought up by our buddy Jared.
Yeah. And real quick, you mentioned there are some companies that do it right. I remember for years, Blizzard did an incredible job every April Fool's Day, especially with they would announce a new update for World of Warcraft. And one of them goes, we're announcing a new class. It's the Bard. And they showed some guy he goes, you actually have to play your keyboard like a guitar, like Guitar Hero, because Guitar Hero was cool at the time. And if you play this and if you keep it going, you will inspire your party. It's I was like, that's fun. Obviously April Fools. And there's another one that's
it's very on brand.
Yeah. There's also, there's a new playable class. It's the Wisp, which is essentially in Warcraft games, Wisp is like a worker, and it gets resources and it's worthless. And it has one ability, which is called detonation. It will explode and take away someone's mana. It's you could play as the Wisp. You get 1 life, and you can detonate. That's its only attack. And when you detonate, you're permanently dead. Just fun, creative things where people can be like, that's cool. Yeah. That's obviously an April Fool's. So credit for that sort of stuff because it is funny and it's also in good fun and people are like, it's no big deal. But Jared in our Discord shared this story off Reddit where this guy said, my boss told me I was fired as soon as I got to work, laughed and walked off. And essentially what happened was this person spent the next 2 hours shutting down their station, packing up their stuff, destroyed their client list. And then when he got home 3 hours later, his boss called him and was like, hey, where you at? I can't find you in the office. And he's like, you fired me. Why the hell would I be at work? He's like, it's April Fool's. It was a joke. Get back in here. And he's like, no, you clearly said I'm fired. I'll be taking unemployment for a few months and filing a complaint with HR. And, essentially it turned into a giant thing where this guy was calling him. He was saying, he's being a leech and everything like that. He was getting just absolutely bombarded. And ultimately what happened is this was a terrible boss, obviously. This guy talked with HR. He was talking with a lawyer and all that sort of stuff. And ultimately this boss got fucking terminated because a lot of other employees did the same thing. They basically we quit. They all kind of in solidarity were like, fuck this shit. And this poster said they got called and they brought him back. They gave him a raise. They put him on a team. They gave him all the stuff that he was hoping to get, that he'd been working for 3 years to get, to do this, all because this guy thought it would be funny to be like, you're fired, and then walk off. And
the only thing I'll say to this, as I hear it laid out in front of me, this worker is lucky it went this way, because there is a chance that it could have not worked out for him, in the sense that, now, was the boss wrong? Was he an idiot? 100%. I want to make that very clear. I feel that way. But at the same time, you got to know what day it is, and you got to know that there are fucking idiots. And the boss didn't necessarily say anything that was super vulgar or extremely insulting. He made a bad joke and walked away. You could argue that this guy did take it a little to the extreme. Did it work out for him? Yes, it did. And should it have worked out for him? Probably, yes.
And to elaborate, this poster originally says, so he goes, this wasn't the single incident that got this guy fired.
There we go. Now we're on to it.
He's like, apparently this guy had a history of harassment, and there had been plenty of stuff, because I guess the night before, this guy had yelled at a bunch of his other colleagues, just been very, this was the final straw
right
in all of this. And it just so happened that, this guy was, a toxic, leader, and was causing all sorts of problems. This just happened to be the thing that we're like, all right, you just thought it would be a good idea on April Fool's Day to tell someone they were fired, they left, and now our company is liable because they think it's an unlawful termination. Get the fuck out of here, you moron. Like,
right. Well, and that's the thing too, where you're just like, because he was such a bad boss, what a wonderful way for him to get, like, it could not have been a better, like, talk about the April Fools that backfired, could not have been a more wonderful way for this boss to finally get his comeuppance.
Yeah, these are the things that it set me on fire because, listen,
it's pointless.
I'm not an expert, okay? I'm not an expert in comedy. I studied it for a little while. Did improv, did a little bit of writing, did a little bit of acting and things like that. And
took a few classes at Vassar.
Took a few. I know enough to be humble. I know enough to shut the fuck up. Sometimes. Most of the time. I don't always, nail it. But it's one of those things where I wouldn't dare to joke about something like that unless, again, it's like number one rule in improv is yes and. Number 2 is listen. Number 3 is don't be Hitler. Don't be Hitler in a scene unless it's gonna be funny. And there's a huge asterisk there with unless it's gonna be funny, because it better be fucking good, because if you're gonna play Hitler in a scene, it better bring down the fucking house, because guess what? Kind of a touchy subject, the old Holocaust. If you're gonna come out and be the guy that was instrumental in executing millions of people, it better be pretty fucking funny. So same thing with April Fools. Like, the idea of most of the stuff I think is probably harmless, but people are just so fucking dumb. They are so dumb, and they're like, "Oh, this will be hilarious. I'm going to tell my mom I'm pregnant."
Right.
April Fools. It's just, and I've been the person that's done this. I want to be clear with that. I've been the person that's like, "Oh, this is funny to me," but it's not funny to someone else, and I've absolutely regretted it after I've done it. I've learned, still learning to this day, that what's funny to me should not be always at the expense of someone else. Sorry, Jared. Sorry, Jared. Because I am doing it in fun, but someone may not see it that way. And I think when I look back on my life,
is that not funny anymore? Are we not doing that?
I think it's still funny.
Okay, cool. But, as long as that's still funny.
But I realize, looking back on my life, I have made jokes at other people's expense, and I meant well by it, but it obviously was still at someone else's expense, and that's not what I want to do. And I feel like a lot of people are too dumb to realize that this is funny, April Fool's Day. It's like, no, it's not funny. It's stupid. And guess what? You don't have to participate. Just like I don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day. Because I don't believe in.
Because you're a curmudgeon. That's why, Doug.
I don't think about it because it's not a holiday. It's not a real holiday. And I'm like, where's your green? Go fuck yourself.
It is to the Shirish. It is to the Shirish, Doug.
Is that the Irish people that live in the Shire?
No, it's the Chicago Irish people.
I think that refers to the Irish people that live in the Shire.
Well, I mean, in the Shires of Chicago.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
The Chicago Shire, right?
The Chicago Shires.
Yeah. The Frodo O'Malley's,
Exactly, yes. Who live up at the corner of Wellington and Hobbit Avenue.
Wellington and Brandywine Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, long story short, fuck off with your April Fool's Day. Just don't do it. That's my dare speech. Just don't fucking do it. Stay out of it.
I just don't understand. There's these certain, like we talked about it when St. Patrick's Day rolled around. Like, why do we dye the Chicago River for that holiday and no other holidays? Like, why is that holiday so every year it just continues to churn and get bigger and bigger? Same with April Fool's Day. Like, why is it still a recognized? Is there anyone that would be super bummed out if we just kind of did away with it and let it go into slip into the ether? I'd be curious. Like, is there anyone? Definitely with St. Patrick's Day, there would be riots because people would be like, "Not my river." But would anyone take to the streets for April Fool's Day?
Someone would. Someone would be
so?
like, you're a bunch of cucks just giving in to the social justice warriors. You can't take a fucking joke.
Right.
You know?
Everyone's
so uptight they canceled April Fool's Day.
Right. I'm being put upon.
No one can take a joke anymore. Everyone's so serious. Man. Yeah,
that's all off. Fox News would talk about.
Yeah, fuck off. Fuck off. Stick your dick in your butt and fuck yourself. There you go. Ta-da!
Well, you know.
I've put my dick in worse.
Haven't we all? Mom. My mom has a dick.
Speaking
apparently.
Of putting your dicks in worse.
Actually, I was actually thinking maybe we could skip that because we're, as I look at my non-existent watch, I think we're running out of time, and I want to make sure we get to the meat.
This is the meat and potatoes of this one. Yeah.
Thanks, Slotty, for Let's Go Brandon. Cool, thank you, Slotty, very predominant Let's Go Brandon guy. So big news! I finally saw the Batman this past weekend. I was very excited.
The Batman theme, or at least 0.7 seconds of it.
Oh God, such a good theme. Such a good theme. My daughter had a play date with a friend from school, and apparently it was girls.
Natalie.
It was girls only. So I was like, but I wanted to. I will say this: they went to an arcade, and I was like, God damn it, that would have been fun.
That is pretty cool. Actually,
apparently Natalie dunked on this girl pretty hard in most of the games. I was like, this is my fucking girl. But I was like, well, while you're doing that, I guess I'll go see this movie. Bye. And I went and saw the Batman. I was very excited. And first
thing I got to ask is, how was the movie going experience, Doug?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Justin, because the curse of Doug being annoyed at movie theaters lives on.
It runs strong.
In this particular situation, not a super full theater. I got a space not really too much around anyone else. I was towards the back, towards the corner, but through about 60% of the movie, someone 3 rows back was snoring through the film, which was really unfortunate because, I could have moved, but I could still hear them snoring because it was loud snoring.
Yeah.
And it was really obnoxious.
This was someone who had a deep sleep going. They weren't just like, not a cute snore.
I was just like, God damn it, I can't win. I just can't win. And this is why I look at AMC and go, fuck you, buddy. Fuck you. Let me stream my shit at home because I don't want to deal with that horse shit. It's super obnoxious. Really annoying. I don't like it. But so that was about for the first 60% of the film. And then for probably the last 35%, 40% of the film, they woke up. So, which I'm good. So
I'm glad they got to see the end of it.
Yeah. I love how Slotty goes, sounds like an endorsement for the film. No, sir. No, this person was just a garbage person. So they should have stayed home and napped because that's just not cool.
Yeah.
But I was very excited. I had above average expectations for it. I liked the trailer. The marketing for it really appealed to me. I love the fucking soundtrack. I listened to that in advance. I was like, I'm here for this. I love a Batman movie. But I do go in with a grain of salt because I'm of two minds. Because you say Batman movie, I'm like, you have my attention. I'm interested. It's like, hey, Blink-182 put out an album. I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to go ahead and buy it without listening to it. You know, I'm already invested.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
the brand in and of itself has done enough good. The stock is up, if you will.
Yes. But at the same time, I'm like, we've had so many versions of Batman recently. You know, I mean, if you think about it, when was the last Batman? I think Dark Knight Rises was 2012. So
it was 2012. That was the last full Batman movie.
Yeah.
That Batman didn't share the screen with someone.
Yeah. And for the record, we're going to spoil this movie. So if you haven't seen it,
yes,
you know, mind your balls. So the Nolan universe was like 2006 through 2012. And then you had Zack Snyder's stuff. And then you had, dabbling in the, you had Jared Leto's Joker and Harley Quinn for Suicide Squad. And now we're getting this one, which is its own separate universe. So it's kind of, my fear is like, are we going to be retreading old ground? Are we going to see his parents get killed again? It was kind of like with Spider-Man. It's like, I swear to God, if I see him get bit by a fucking spider, I'm going to lose my mind.
Lose my shit.
But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good overall. For a Batman, Slotty is aggressively minding my balls. Good, sir. Good. It's Tuesday night. Take care of yourself. Self-care. It's really important. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I liked the soundtrack. I think it's probably the first time we've seen a true detective Batman in all of the films that we've seen. A lot of the other ones have been Batman smashing faces, which does exist in this film. It does happen. Yes. But not nearly as much as the other films. And you see a lot of him sleuthing. You see a lot of him gathering information, trying to make connections, which I thought was really cool. Because that also made the parts where he beats ass that much more interesting. He's like, oh, cool, he's beating ass now, which is really good. And Robert Pattinson, thought he was great. Thought he was wonderful.
I had my as a lot of people I think did when it was first announced that Pattinson was going to be the Batman. I was like, oh God, really? We're getting vampire Batman? Fine, the teen heartthrob, whatever, I get it. And then I really started to dig into Pattinson's kind of his body of work, and he's done everything he can and then some to separate himself from that Twilight role. And really, when you really break down where his career has taken him, it's actually pretty fucking impressive. And he is a good fucking actor. And he did a great job with this role. I am here for Pattinson's Batman. I'm
100%.
Absolutely here for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a great job with it.
Zoe Kravitz was also delightful. She
Wonderful.
was phenomenal as Selena Kyle.
The imagining of all the characters I thought was one of the best things.
Yeah.
Like how they imagined the Penguin. They didn't go Danny DeVito. It was like, what would this guy look like if he was truly, and they got him right around there, and they released a deleted scene of where you see a 5-minute interaction with the Joker and what he would look like, and talk about a twisted look he's got, but exactly what he might look like in real life. You know, the Riddler was not your Jim Carrey in a green suit, with a question mark staff. Yeah. It was everyone that they imagined in a way that I was like, yeah, this is plausible.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It was very grounded. It's pretty dark in a sense of like, most people give Batman movies shit because like, it's so dark. It's so broody. And I'm like, yeah, but look at this world they're living in, man. Right. Half the police force is corrupt. Politicians are corrupt. Right. There's crime. It seems like crime is fucking rampant. Like there's nothing that can be done about it. What's to be excited about? About living here,
Well, the other thing, and it's just, look, Gotham is probably near Seattle because it's just raining all the time.
Dude, there was so much rain in that movie. I was like, fuck.
So much. The thing is, too, so one of the things we talked about is you see more Batman in this film than you have in pretty much any other Batman film, or maybe all of them combined.
Yeah.
The total time that Batman versus Bruce Wayne is on screen is very skewed. It is a very Batman heavy. And again, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
But when he's standing out there in the rain, like when he first goes to where the mayor gets murdered, he walks in and he's coming in. He's just standing out there in the rain, and he walks in. I'm like, all I could hear in my head was just.
I'm like, he gets across hardwood, it's like eat as he's walking with his boots.
I'm like, there's that inside of that costume has to be so fucking grimy.
Oh, it's gonna be so gross.
It's just rain in there. There's no way that's waterproof.
And it's like he's got to air that out every night, probably in front of industrial like air dryers just to make sure that it's dry. Because otherwise, you're gonna get mildew and shit in there. It's gonna be real bad. It's not gonna be good on your skin at all.
Yeah, not at all. So, what would you give the movie? Let's start here. A through a normal school grades.
Yeah.
A through F. where would you put this movie?
I put it at a B+ or an A-, kind of right around that area for me. I thought it was real solid all around. Acting was good. I thought the plot was engaging. I thought the sound, the fucking score was phenomenal. The cinematography stood out to me in a lot of ways. Is very unique and engaging. I thought it was all around. It was solid. I know it was close to a 3-hour runtime. Probably could have been a little shorter.
Not probably,
but I didn't
Not
mind
probably.
it. I also didn't mind it. Like I was, when it comes to like long movies, the only reason why I was feeling it is I had to pee really bad because I made the mistake of being hydrated that day. And I was like an hour in, I was like, I look at my watch, I'm like, fuck. We're holding this in. We got to focus, So I didn't mind that it was as long as it was because I found it engaging. So, yeah. How about you? How would you grade it?
I would give this a solid B to B-. I want to go on record before we start really diving into this and say I enjoyed the movie. Mm-hmm. I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was a really fun movie. Fun is maybe not the best word.
What you mean? It was a fun experience.
It was a fun experience. It was a great cinematic experience. So I did enjoy the movie. That being said, it's not without its flaws.
Of course.
As our one of our mottos here at Mind Gap, I enjoyed it, but it's not without its flaws.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would give it a B to a B-. One of my biggest things that with issues is the runtime. I'm over movies that have a 2.5+ hour runtime. Mm-hmm. I think that no movie should be over 2 hours. If you need to take more than 2 hours to tell your movie, you need to make 2 movies. Mm-hmm. That's my hot take for the day. I don't think these ballooned runtimes are doing anyone any good. I think it allows you to meander where you don't need to meander. It slows things down. It gives you the opportunity to get into trouble and overcomplicate things. I just don't think you need 3 hours to tell a story. Mm-hmm. I don't. And if you need that time, then you need to do 2 movies because it's just too long. I could have easily cut out 25 minutes from this film like that without batting an eye.
What would you cut out?
I would have cut out the entire Thompson Center scene. I thought blowing up the seawall. Yeah. That for me, I was like, I did not need this. That actually almost ruined the movie for me. It pulled me out of it.
I can feel you there. It was good because what I appreciate about it is, what I enjoy about anything that involves a Riddler is that he keeps you on your toes, right? Like, what is he doing?
Absolutely.
What's he's planning? Yeah. And having him do that, there is something about that did fall flat. I agree with you there because I feel like Batman didn't necessarily win. Like he did, but not really. You know what I mean? And at the end, the Riddler was like, I'm like, are you mad because they didn't? Your cronies didn't shoot the mayor? Is that what you're mad about? Because you pretty much wrecked this fucking city. Like I'd say that you won.
Like the city is in complete disarray. Yeah. Millions, if not billions of dollars worth of damage done.
Who knows how many people are dead?
That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, and I don't know. It just didn't I felt like this, it took something that was really trying to ride the line about being grounded in reality. And it just took it. I'm like, it felt like it was hearkening back to the Michael Keaton Batman. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is a big set piece that I don't think I more so bought Bane blowing up the football stadium more than I did this set piece of the seawall being blown up and the water flooding in. Because in my mind too, I'm like, why did it just stop? If he blew up a seawall, like all of a sudden the water just stops rushing in. Like Batman's able to just like ferry these people out by holding up a bat flare. Like,
I think the important thing was the flooding was bad, but what made it worse was the Riddler's obviously sharpshooters were there to. Sure. The idea was funnel everybody in. They're dealing with this, and then they get shot. Everyone just gets murdered. But even then, they don't have bullets for everyone in that crowd. I think the idea was I think it was obviously to bring in the leaders and in the time of crisis, kill them so that kind of almost in a Joker-esque way that the city sort of tears itself apart because it's, so I understand the design of it, but the execution was weird because it felt like there was supposed to be a very profound moment there, and I don't think that there was.
Right.
Because
like when Batman fell and then did the bat flare, and then and you saw that panning out shot where he was leading them, and there was ducks following the mama duck through the water. Like that, again, to your point, that seemed like it was supposed to be this big, we're following the light in the dark, our hero. And I was like, eh.
See, that led to one of my problems with the movie is that people seem pretty nonplussed about Batman. I know it's year 2 for him.
Yeah.
And, the cops are the only ones that are like, are you fucking serious? You're letting this guy come around here? But I was like, you guys, I feel like he gets called out early on that there's a vigilante out there fighting this. That's how bad things are. But at the end, he's helping. He's on top of the fucking stadium, carrying people out. No one's like, hey, you arrest him. No one's he was a hero, but I feel like that's not what Batman does. Batman doesn't hang around to do damage control. He's not that good of a hero.
No,
his whole thing is he's not Steve Rogers. His whole thing is to be not seen. And I appreciate the idea of him trying to be heroic and that sacrifice, right? He's trying to cut the wire so that other people don't get electrocuted. He's willing to take the hit for that for his city. But people are way too cool about him being there, and that always bothered me. I mean, sure, the cops kind of gave a little bit of gruff, but they still just let him go through because some Lieutenant Gordon's like, it's cool, he's with me. They bring him hey man, he's handling evidence. He's like, he's got gloves on. Everyone should be like, sir, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to report you to internal affairs or something. You are not following protocol.
Right? He's with me. Doesn't matter.
I don't give a shit.
Doesn't matter.
I can't bring my kid in here. My kid may be with me, but I can't allow them just to come in.
This is a civilian. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
He holds zero authority.
Yeah. That was one of the things where I was like,
right.
No, I mean,
So the other thing I feel like maybe this is it. I don't think you needed to blow up that seawall. She was already going to have this
that's a good point.
Event. She was already going to be in the Thompson Center.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like that.
So why, maybe you, maybe put explosives around the outside so you barricade the doors and people can't get out. Now you've got them trapped in. Now you're shooting fish in a barrel. I think the whole seawall thing was just way too big.
Well, also it kind of goes counter to what the Riddler was trying to do, because the Riddler thought he and Batman were on the same side because they were fighting the corrupt people.
Right.
But it seems like you could argue that these corrupt people were innocent, but there wasn't a point in the movie where he harmed innocent people.
Who's that?
The Riddler.
No, he only, no, I don't think.
His stuff was very targeted and very personal.
Very
so
targeted,
it almost seems out of character to be like, I'm going to blow up these seawalls.
Just flood the whole fucking city.
Because he was an orphan. If anything, he's the common man with a high intelligence. So it seemed that's granted, the Riddler does do some pretty heinous shit in the comics and things like that. But in that movie, we haven't seen a reason for him to do that, unless I'm missing something. Just pure chaos. I mean, he does go on a pretty big rant in his final video and everything like that. Yeah. So maybe I missed something there. But I agree with you. Seawall seems kind of like a bonus that didn't need to be there. Just having everyone there, maybe the idea was there's no way that those guys could get into that event and hide up in the rafters because, there would be security. And I was like, well, I'd argue they got up there anyway before the flood hit. So
I was going to say, there's a lot of things in this. They let a big dude dressed in a bat costume walk onto us. That doesn't seem like the police force is doing much to stop people from just walking into places. So
yeah. I agree. You and I in agreement there. Seawall probably didn't need to happen.
Didn't need to happen. So I would have cut a lot of that scene. I also would have reworked this, and I know Matt Reeves probably tried to avoid it, and for what it was, he did a good job, but he fell into the same issue that every DC movie falls into. He had too many characters. There was too much going on, I think. And he tried almost too much to relate Selena Kyle, and then Falcone is her father, but Falcone killed Baroni, and then you've got the Penguin, and then you've got this, and then the Riddler, it was too much. It was just too much. If you had, and it was all engineered so that one domino led to the next, led to the next, led to the next. But I think you could have reworked the script, and I don't know how. I haven't put in the legwork to figure it out, but you could have reworked the script to maybe remove one or two characters and save them for the next film, because it just seemed like we were really overloaded with plot points.
See, I thought it was actually handled relatively well given the amount of characters. I felt like they all got a good amount of screen time, and when these characters showed up, especially like Penguin, I was like, oh, cool, and it was a nice sort of setup for everything, and it felt like the comic Long Halloween in a sense of that one is really cool because it really follows so many different character villains, because the Long Halloween comic is essentially about a serial killer who's going around and killing people, like vigilante style, like killing crime bosses and things like that. And everyone's like, who the fuck is doing this? But then you're like, oh, I bet it's the Riddler. But then the Riddler gets attacked. He doesn't get killed, but he gets attacked. Right. And it's like, who is this? Who's going? It feels like, and Batman's trying to suss out who is behind all this as he's going through clues and he's seeing all these connections. I kind of got that vibe from it, in that, I would argue that the one person who really got left behind was Alfred. That guy.
So there's another one, and this is a minor plot point for me, but he gets blowed up. He's in the hospital. Bruce and him have this horribly forced emotional interaction, which had zero emotional stakes to it.
Yeah.
It was, I took care of you. I was a surrogate father. I realize that now. And that's it. Like, we got no backstory. There was nothing that led us to the point where they were trying to pay off this big emotional reveal of like, he is essentially your father. And it would just, it fell flat for me because there was no build up to it. Also, after he's there with him and he sees the bat signal, we don't see Alfred at all the rest of the movie. Mm-mm. Presumably he lives, but we don't know. We have no idea.
Well, also that scene is like, I hate my dad because he did this. And Alfred goes, nuh-uh. This is what happened. He's like, okay. Like,
yeah, it's just the flip.
And also, it's heavily implied that Alfred taught him how to fight.
Uh-huh.
Because he's like, I could teach you how to fight, but I never could teach you how to love. I don't know if that was the line, but
good enough. Yeah.
I was like, wait, Alfred taught him all that? I'm like, okay, in this universe, fine. That's whatever, But
as far as canon goes, didn't Alfred come from a military background?
He did, yes. And he even says, he's like, I was hired to protect your family. That's why I exist here. So yeah, Alfred was woefully, like when I heard Andy Serkis to Alfred, I'm like, great, awesome. He's like in three scenes, not much in there. So. Which again, that person, that aspect of it got cut. But I enjoyed Selena Kyle stuff. Falcone was interesting. Penguin was interesting. The Riddler I thought was great. I know people have been clamoring for a Riddler like this since right around Dark Knight Rises. People were like wanted to have the villain be Guy Pearce. People were hoping to be him or Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And having this be this Saw-like serial killer that was terrifying and people had to deal with. And I really enjoyed that aspect to this. I thought Paul Dano, that guy plays one hell of a creepy person, man. That guy kills it as that kind of character.
To that end, I thought this movie should be rated R.
I would have been okay with that.
I don't think that it went far enough.
What would you have liked to have seen?
Like true brutality. Like I think we saw brutality, but like I think the same thing happened with I again, one of my all-time favorites is Heath Ledger in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. But Wayne Parham and I were talking about it years ago, and he brought up an interesting point where he thought he's like, Christopher Nolan always cut from the scenes right when Heath Ledger was really starting to sink his teeth into the material. Mm-hmm. He goes, he didn't let Ledger really fully envelop that character and become the Joker. And I almost felt the same way with this. I was like, you saw Dano being creepy, but I felt like if you're going to do this, if you're going to go Saw, if you're going to go dark and thriller horror almost, then lean into it and go R. Let it go all the way. Mm-hmm. I think it would have made for a more unsettling character because Dano's the speech that he gave when he was in prison to Batman, that fell flat for me. I thought the Joker speech to Batman in The Dark Knight was for whatever reason, was far more unsettling or believable or maniacal or chaotic than this one where he was, just like, ear fucking him with a whisper. Like I didn't buy. Like, there's something. Dano did a great job, but I felt like they needed to open up the throttle and just say, do whatever you want to do. I feel like he almost wasn't given enough.
This might sound like a cop-out or a crutch, but I also, one of the things that were in this film is that no one is their fully realized character yet. Penguin is the second in command. Batman is second year in this. The Joker in this film is supposedly not even full Joker yet. Like, supposedly he's, coming into that. Riddler is the same way. Like, Riddler, from my experience in reading stuff, is generally just likes antagonizing people because he's smarter than them. And he loves putting people in positions where he's going to outdo them and everything like that. Whereas in this one, the Riddler, to me, had a personal stake in getting retribution and revenge on corrupt people. And what I liked about it was, they brought up in the movie, was that Batman kind of feels like these guys are guilty. And I think it could have been touched on more as how much is he wrestling with the morality of that. And actually, that's what I liked about the deleted scene with the Joker, which is the Joker calls him out on that. And he's like,
you feel the same way.
You feel the same way. You feel like these guys deserved it. And he starts cackling because Batman says it a couple times, like even with Selena Kyle and her friend Annika, he's like, she was basically fucking with the wrong people, literally. Like just which is another
character who I was just like, what a waste of a character, because I had no, like, Selena's like, oh no, she's dead. I'm like, well, who?
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah.
Not an underdeveloped character there, but
so that seems like you could say that for almost everything. We're like, oh well, they're not fully realized there yet. But I feel like the Riddler, what he was doing was way more personal. And what I liked about that scene with Batman and the Riddler at the end was that the Riddler truly thought that he and Batman were on the same side,
and that they were going to be besties.
And then when he just like reacts, like, you're ruining this. Like, no, this is not how this was supposed to go. Like, we're doing the same thing. We're taking them down. And honestly, the one thing I'll give about that scene at the end where they're in the stadium is when the guy says, who am I? I am vengeance. That I thought was actually a really powerful part, because Batman, like he says in the voiceover at the end, he's like, I am having an effect on the city, but I don't know if it's the way that I want, which is always a theme with Batman, is does Batman make things better, or does he make them worse by existing? Right. And it was the same thing in Nolan's universe. Like after Batman Begins, it's the idea of escalation, because Batman puts away all the normal criminals. The psychos are the one that fill in to fill the power vacuum. Right. And same thing here. Like these guys that are super creepy are filling in, and they're seeing what Batman's doing. They're like, oh, he gets it. He gets it. We're on the same side. We're getting rid of the bad people.
Almost a copycat effect.
Yes. And what I loved was there was a general admiration from the Riddler for Batman. Right. And when he realized that Batman was not on his side, his reaction I thought was really cool. And I did appreciate that. And I did enjoy that Batman was really smart. He filled out riddles like that. I'm like, God damn it, I wish I could figure out riddles really fast. He's doing a really good job.
Well, Alfred was no slouch himself with the riddles. He was, without Alfred, I don't know if Batman would have made it through some of these.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah.
I did like how the Joker in that deleted scene, everyone's got a hard on for Batman, because the Joker feels like he's like, I thought you liked this. And he's like, you're more fun.
I know. He's like, I don't want to talk about me.
Batman. Yeah, I don't want to talk about you.
He's like, yeah, but you're way more fun, which I did appreciate, because that is the dynamic between Joker and Batman. Yeah. It's just this Joker just loves fucking antagonizing him to no end, which was really cool. But I love the cinematography in this.
Cinematography was gorgeous.
It was so cool how they made the choice in some sequences to have the focus, like whatever was happening was blurred. It was blurred. It was obscured on purpose. And you were focusing on something that was more mundane, or just sort of maybe in the foreground and less about the background. And it gave it such a really mysterious and off-putting feeling for me. Especially like the deleted scene with the Joker. So much of his face is blurred.
It's obscure. Yeah.
It's just not in focus in it, which I really appreciated. And I don't know, it gave it a really nice look and feel to it. And I can't stress how much I enjoyed the Batman theme for this, because man, you talk about, man, anyone who has to be Batman or the Joker or take on any of this sort of stuff, there's so many iconic people that you're following in the footsteps of, and especially music. The Batman music from the 60s was iconic. The Batman, in the 80s, like with the Keaton, that was iconic. Hans Zimmer's is iconic. Snyder, I don't even know if they had one, to be honest with you. But yeah, but this one was so good. It reminded me of it reminded me a lot of Jaws in that it was just two notes.
Yeah.
But it was like the crescendo and also the one that mixes in with the Nirvana song was phenomenal. I love the voiceover in this too, like in the beginning.
That was in that noir kind of like throwback to the 40s, 30s when Batman, when the character was conceived, it felt very of that time.
Yeah.
But it brought it was an element of the movies of that time, but it brought it into present day, and that like, and the concept of they're afraid of the shadows because they don't know where I love
those scenes.
Notion of that. Yeah.
Oh, those scenes were so cool because you see these guys doing terrible things. They see the bat signal, then they just look to the shadows and they get fucking scared. And that's the thing I've always loved about Batman is the fear he instills on people. That's what I loved in The Dark Knight in the opening sequence. When guys are dealing drugs, they look up and be like, nah, man, I'm not feeling it tonight. He's like, what? You got a better chance of winning the Powerball than running into him. But that's the effect that he's has. People are like, look, man, I don't want to buy drugs tonight. Like, fuck that. Like, this guy can beat my ass.
They don't know where I am, or I can't be everywhere, but they don't know where I am.
Exactly.
And that's the thing.
And they think
I might be here.
Yeah. And that is enough. And that's where I love about like setting that up is he's been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah.
He's already having that effect. Like there's a guy that's out here that's just whooping ass. And I gotta say, that fight sequence with the clown guys, oh my God, that was so good.
Cool. Yeah.
So cool, man. Like he's
was showing him again, not fully realized, figuring it out. He's got some rudimentary weapons that his gadgets aren't really like super high tech. It's very homemade. He's still got to like reload his arm thing and push it back in. It's not all automated. And it's you could see him figuring it out, and he takes a couple licks, but then he gives it right
still
back.
That scene where that first guy comes at him with the lead pipe, and he just fucking whoops the shit out of him, and then he just sort of stands up as the guys and they circle him, and he's just like wholesale beating ass. But I also love at the end of that sequence, the victim goes, "Please don't hurt me," because even he still doesn't know if Batman's good or
what
bad.
Are the rules here? Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. There was so good. there was just so much good about it. We kind of picked on a lot of things, and I wish we had more time to talk about it. But
I want to one more point.
Please.
I want to bring up that I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here because I liked the narration, the voiceover, but I thought that there was far too much exposition in this. Specifically, one example that stuck out to me that I was like. I was like looking around in the theater going, come on, no one else? Just me? Really? Was when Batman and Gordon had Penguin up against the pillar when they kidnapped him. And they were just like, and Falcone talked to Maroni, and Maroni said this, but you thought you could do this, and then this happened, and then that, and then this. And I'm like, all right, guys, we get it. You're like, them telling the Penguin everything that had happened just to service the audience. I'm like, it was literally like 2 minutes of just straight exposition, rapid fire exposition that was almost impossible to follow.
Well, it was funny because
throughout the whole film,
you mentioned how you are like so deaf to the score.
Yeah.
In movies, I'm usually really deaf to like exposition dumps. I'm just like,
really?
And then what happened? Like, I don't very rarely, like, I can pick up on like when they say these, they'll say certain things because like we have to say this. In character, it makes no sense. But the audience doesn't know. They're like, hey, man, you got to make sure you reload that because if you don't, then something might backfire. Like, don't you think I know that? I went through basic training. Like, that's just, we have to let you know that foreshadowing that this thing's going to malfunction and then something bad could happen. Like, that's just how it has to go. But I do agree that going back to the thing you said about too many characters, there is a complex system of underworld and crime bosses that have existed in the Batman universe.
Right.
I'm familiar with Maroni. I'm familiar with Falcone. I'm familiar with all that sort of stuff. The average person may not. And the fact that we don't ever see Maroni, that Maroni is just dead. Like I can understand how that scene could absolutely be like incredibly confusing. They're probably like, we got to get this information out there because we have to get to this next point. Right. And we want you to think that Penguin was involved even though that he's not. And so we didn't get to visually see how Penguin was connected to all this, so we did have to tell that. So I think that's a very fair point where, that went down. And I think I remember feeling after that sequence, I was like, wow, okay. I don't know, something about it felt off to me, and maybe that's because of what it was. It was an exposition dump, and I wasn't able to identify that.
It was an exposition. Not only was it an exposition dump, like it just in my mind, it was like an egregious exposition, like an aggressive exposition dump. Yeah. I'll be curious going back on rewatch. I'll have to pay attention to the score and how it adds to different scenes, and I want you to try to pay attention to see how much, because I think it'll if you pay attention to it, it will surprise you.
Yeah. Well, and again, I've never written anything like that before, but I imagine it's probably pretty challenging to find creative ways to do that. But people have done it.
100%.
People have done it.
It's not easy, but yeah.
I mean, I just recently rewatched Dune. And Dune is no easy feat to get information out to people, but by God, I got it, Yep. I sure as shit got it. They want spice on the planet Dune.
And scene. Go.
There we go. And there's sandworms. Go.
There's sandworms, right.
Ta-da.
Exactly.
So anyway, we did pick on it a lot, but I wanted to, like this, Justin and I talked beforehand, he had some things he wanted to bring up that bothered him, and we wanted to discuss them because I was curious as to what he had, because I just recently watched it. I may be in the honeymoon phase of it all where I'm still thinking about it, which I think for me is always a good sign. Like I'm still like, oh yeah, and then this happened, whatever. So obviously I'm coming in pretty great about it, and I look forward to rewatching it again when I can, I'd love to show it to Jill, although that probably won't ever happen. But
Beth went with me. She was full on like, let's go see the Batman. I'm like,
I think Jill would watch it for me, but we rarely have moments where just she and I can sit down and watch a movie. I just rewatched the Suicide Squad the other day, and I was like, you got to watch this fucking movie with me. Like, Suicide Squad's fucking awesome. It's so good. Yeah. And I'm like, ugh. But she also was like, I want to read a book because I'm sophisticated.
Nerd. Yeah.
Fucking nerd.
But I want to be very clear again. I started this and I'll end it with this. I did not dislike the movie. I did like the movie. It is not without its flaws, and I just wanted to talk through some of the things I couldn't reconcile a few things in my brain, and that's what this podcast is here for. That's why Doug and I get to work through the stuff that we can't figure out, and we get to talk through it together. But
there's a reason why we diddle each other's brains on this show.
That's right,
because you like it.
Yep.
You got the questions, we got the answers. All you do is ask. Practical. Ask Practical Doug.
It's time for Ask Practical Doug. Hey, Ask Practical Doug. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know Practical Doug, it's a small Doug that lives inside Big Doug, and Practical Doug guides Doug. He guides Doug in most of life's adventures. So our audience gets to ask Practical Doug questions in the live chat if you join us on Tuesdays when we record the episode. On any social media, hashtag Ask Practical Doug, or in our Discord server, or anywhere where you can contact us, you can ask Practical Doug. And man, I feel like there really is only one Ask Practical Doug to go with today.
I see you highlight it.
Yeah, I feel like it's time.
I got rid of the picture at least for this.
Did you still have it somewhere?
I got rid of it, so we don't need to.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. There was a visual. You're all welcome that it's no longer. I feel like it's a win. But I also feel like this is good to do just the two of us and not with the guest, because it could be misconstrued as not appropriate for a guest. But Slotty wants to know, hey, Practical Doug, would you rather have dicks for fingers or testicle toes?
This is a very simple one.
Yes.
I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
Well, there's one thing that we have to figure out.
Yep.
If you have testicle toes and you stub your toe, do they still hurt as if, they're your testicles?
I would say 100% yes.
Then I will go with dicks for fingers any day of the week, because while that is creepy and gross, it's just more practical, because walking would be unbearable. Absolutely unbearable. I stub my toe as it is, and it doesn't feel great. I can only imagine you couldn't wear shoes ever.
Yeah,
like
you have some special shoes.
Okay, that are what? Yeah. Like that are what? Just basically just cups, Well,
instead of Crocs, they could be cocks.
Scrotes, like just it would be so impractical to get around. You know, it wouldn't be good. Now, dicks for fingers is no vacation. All right.
No. Like, do your fingers get boners?
Do you pee out your fingers?
You whiz out your fingers, right?
Grabbing things is going to be awful.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's going to be a veritable situation where it's just like floppity, floppity, floopity, flap. Like, you know, shaking hands with someone is going to be awful, you know? Writing, typing, brutal, you know?
Absolutely.
But nowadays, there's stuff you could do, you know, just verbal that it could dictate for you.
Voice to text, right.
Yeah, right? There's a lot of things you get through with. It ain't great. You can put your hands in your pockets, right? It's like, it's fine. It's more functional and more practical to have dicks for fingers than testicle for toes. I have spoken.
And I need to get like some sort of like there needs to be some sort of Doug has spoken thing. I don't know.
Oh, Slotty goes, ew.
Doug has spoken.
Ew, there's pre-cum in this handshake.
God damn it. If you're cold and you rub your hands together, is that just like jerking off?
Well, dude, not only that, when your hands get cold, those things your fingers must shrink, you know?
Right.
It's just. Oh my God. Follow-up question.
Oh.
Are your fingers circumcised?
Is that like cutting your fingernails? Do you just have to? Do you have to continually get circumcised?
Boy, I hope not.
Welcome to the Throwdown.
Woo! We made it. We made it.
I'm glad that this throwdown came from our council last week, but because we did not get to do the episode last week, we were like, let's carry this over because this is a fun one.
This is good. So, if you're not familiar with the throwdown, is a situation where our council from our Discord puts together two things that will enter a ring and only one can leave, and we have to debate which one will survive and why. So this week's throwdown is featuring none other than Moon Knight versus the Mandalorian. And in parentheses, it says the council thinks leaving the Darksaber out is nice, but hey, we're a shadow council, not the law.
I would say that we have to leave the Darksaber out.
I agree.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I don't know what the Darksaber does, but it seems like a lightsaber to some.
Have you not watched?
No, I haven't watched
Mandalorian.
I watched the Mandalorian where
he gets the Darksaber at the end of.
Yeah, but it's just like a.
Oh wait,
it's like a.
That's right. In his episode of Boba Fett, episodes. That's where it's really explored. Oh, that's cool. True.
Yeah, I haven't watched Boba Fett.
All it is it's a lightsaber that was forged from Mandalorian armor, whatever that Baskin armor, I think. So basically, it rides the line. It's an artifact that rides the line between the Jedi culture and the Mandalorian culture.
Can ride my line,
and only the one who wields it will bring true balance to the Force.
On Tatooine.
On Tatooine, yeah, it's got to be on Tatooine. Every battle happens there
at the Mos Eisley Cantina. So
exactly.
All right. Why don't you start with the Mandalorian and then I'll go through Moon Knight.
Okay. Mandalorian Baskin Robbins armor. That's right. Yeah, it's Baskin or Beskar. Sorry, not Baskin. I leave it to our stream to call me out on my nerdy faux pas. Powers. That's why I love you guys. Powers and stats for the Mandalorian. What do we got here? He's a 9B physically, but 9A with vibro knife and blasters.
Sounds like my prom night.
With sufficient bombs, and an 8A with the Darksaber. So we're gonna take 8A away, Doug. We're not taking 8A into an account.
Copy
okay,
that.
Not taking it into account. Okay. So, likely in his 30s, he's a human, Mandalorian foundling, and warrior. He's got superhuman physical characteristics, combat mastery. He's masterful unarmed combatant, stealth mastery, weapon mastery, vehicular mastery, capable tactician, and overall highly cunning fighter. He's got energy projection with all of his guns. I don't know if that's a power. That's more of a weapon. Enhanced senses. It says fire manipulation. He's got a flamethrower. Jesus Christ. Hold on. I'm going to do a quick edit, a real-time edit on this. He's got a ton of weapons. Light no. Flight. He's got a jetpack. So really, he's strong. He's got combat mastery, stealth mastery, weapon mastery, and he is a skilled tactician. That's his powers. He's pretty heavy in the attacks. He's got wall level or small building level. Let's see. Superhuman lifting strength. Durability. He's very, very durable because of his Baskin-Robbins armor. Stamina, peak human. He did not appear to be the least bit tired after fending off and defeating 3 Trandoshan warriors after having already been in a fierce fight just minutes prior. Range, he's got standard melee range with his actual blasters and weapons much longer. And then he's got gifted intelligence. His weakness, while formidable, he can occasionally make mistakes in combat and, if needed to, can actively let others hit his armor without trying to dodge or block, which is very similar to what Moon Knight does. He likes to take the hits.
Yeah.
You can even approach attacks so that they may end faster. That doesn't seem like a weakness.
Yeah, right.
This is whoever penned this specific versusbattles.fandom.com article, you fell down on the job here a little bit.
Adam. I'm just gonna call someone out named Adam.
I
Fuck you,
thought
Adam.
there was an actual I was like, oh man, did someone actually? We're calling this asshole out.
All right, let's talk about Moon
You know
Knight.
what? That's enough.
Let's talk about Moon
What do
Knight.
you got?
So, which by the way, have you started watching the show yet?
I have, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Me too. All right, so Moon Knight is a character who has several personalities. Mark Spector has other personalities. Stephen Grant and James Lockley. So he is a human resurrected by Khonshu, who is I don't know, something ethereal, I'm assuming.
He's an Egyptian god.
So he's got martial arts, weapon mastery, vehicles. He can do regeneration low. It requires moonlight. Electricity, sleep manipulation, built-in torches, energy shield, sound. He's got a lot of stuff. He's got some magical shit going on here. All right. Let's see here. Every time he dies, he comes back to life. Uh-oh.
Well,
That seems like a giant.
I would say that's nigh invulnerability.
Interesting. Well, that's a big plus in that category.
Yeah.
He's comparable to the Punisher or Daredevil as far as attack potency. All right, his speed is whatever. He also has bullet dodging feats. That's probably important. He's kept up with Deadpool. He can cut a bullet in half. That's impressive. Let's see. He's relatively durable. Knocked out for a moment after deflecting grenade. Took a hit from Venom. Standard equipment. So yeah, I want to get to his equipment. He's got his suit, crescent darts with shooters, nunchucks, an adamantium truncheon with built-in tasers, bolas, blowgun, energy shield, an ankh that glow up in the face of imminent danger and can be used as a club. A pair of bracers we can use as web shooters or metal claws, bow and arrow, ivory boomerang, grappling hook. Right. His suit is included with Kevlar armor, two-way radio. He's above average intelligence, expert in multiple martial arts and boxing, mastered all the fighting styles in the world. Can incapacitate enemies more powerful than by using pressure point attacks, a skilled acrobat, detective, and pilot. Weakness, he's mentally unstable.
There you go. As one is wont to be.
So this is interesting because I think a couple of key things with Moon Knight. He has this ankh which will light up with danger. So that gives him warning.
Senses dangerous. Okay.
When something is happening. Also, the fact that he can be resurrected when he dies, I think, is a huge bonus in his favor.
Is there any way to kill him? Does it say in the article? Like,
it doesn't say.
Is he just invulnerable? Like, is he just?
Well, I mean, he can regenerate in the moonlight. It seems like you could probably. incapacitate him, to some degree, which again, if Mandalorian can incapacitate him and walk out of the arena, I think that's a win for him.
Sure. Yeah.
And Moon Knight may get resurrected at a later time, but I would still give the Mandalorian a win in that regard. So maybe that's not as big of a thought as a win as I thought. I think Mandalorians, while Moon Knight is very skilled in combat, I think the Mandalorian comes to the table with Mandalorian training, which I think I would give the edge to him in that regard. As far as, I feel like that gives him his natural state of things is going to be instincts and how to do things. Like, and we've seen that in the show, how he reacts and whatnot. Right.
The problem here is that we haven't seen enough of the show Moon Knight to really be able to
well, we've seen the after effects of what Mark can do.
Yes.
Which is pretty devastating.
Yeah. I would also say too, he's got the voice and or knowledge of an Egyptian god inside of him.
Yeah.
So whilst the Mandalorian's got years of Mandalorian training, it's hard to argue when you've got an Egyptian god inside of you.
But again, Moon Knight is mentally unstable. If he is, if we take from like episode 1 of Moon Knight, he's switching in and out between super powerful combat guy and regular dork who works at the gift shop. I mean, Mandalorian would tear him up.
He would, for sure.
If that happens. So I would argue that if Moon Knight is able to maintain his ability, I think giving...
If we see the Moon Knight at the end of episode 1, where he takes that demon dog down, that Moon Knight.
Yeah, the only thing is that, again, fucking Mandalorian has a jetpack, can fly around, can shoot from a distance. He has a lot of tools at his disposal. Moon Knight doesn't have he does have an energy shield. It does say he has tasers, bolas, blowgun.
Is there any supernatural abilities there, did they say?
Not necessarily. He's got flashbangs. So it seems like their arsenal is pretty similar to one another.
Yeah.
As far as like what they have at their disposal. So I'll give that a wash. I think in hand-to-hand... What's that?
That armor that the Mandalorian has is really tough to... That's the thing.
Can it deal with adamantium, though, is the question.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, can a lightsaber cut through adamantium?
I think the answer is yes.
Because the lightsaber cannot cut through Baskin Robbins armor. So that is... it's one of the best, yeah. 31 flavors of armor. So if a lightsaber can cut through adamantium, and I know he doesn't have it, but I'm just saying as far as comparing the two different metals, if his armor does not allow a lightsaber to cut through it, that's pretty fucking tough armor.
Yeah, so how would Moon Knight actually get through that armor? I think that's a great question because I don't know if he can.
He'd have to get up under the helmet, or he'd have to get in through one of the sides where where there's an opening in the armor.
Yeah,
and he does seem like he's skilled in every martial art. He's got they even said though he can take down opponents more powerful than him based off of his martial arts abilities.
Pressure point attacks. But if the pressure points are covered up because of the armor, can he get to them? I think this would be an amazing fight between these two. Would love to see it. I think I'm going to give the advantage to the Mandalorian because of maneuverability. Let's go back to his speed. Movement is subsonic with massively hypersonic combat speed. So he does have really fast combat speed, but he has to close the distance.
Who's that, Moon Knight?
The Moon Knight does. Whereas
Mandalorians can
just jetpack around, fire blasters, fire rockets, flamethrowers. Like I feel like that distance makes a huge difference. And
he's got that knife bow staff thing.
Yeah.
He's very adept with.
Yeah. So I think it would be a close one, but Moon Knight would have to do some tremendous damage to either get through the armor or find a way to subvert the armor with just like, blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
Or something.
I was always under the assumption that Moon Knight was more of a metaphysical type character, Then when I did some research based off of the show coming out, I realized, oh no, he can transform. The costume kind of manifests itself by magic, but outside of that, it seems as though he's pretty much just got standard, slightly above average human stuff. So
he's an agent of a god. He's but he's not blessed with like Thor-like powers or anything like that.
Right.
So I think because of that, I have to give it to the Mandalorian.
You know what? I feel like I gotta say I agree. So it's gonna be the Mandalorian.
Nice, good stuff. Thank you as always, Council. That was a good conversation. Justin, what do you have to recommend this week?
I'm gonna go ahead and recommend. I started the show Severance on Apple TV Plus. The conceit of the show is it's with Adam Scott from Parks and Rec fame, Christopher Walken, Patricia Arquette, John Turturro, and other people that you would probably recognize also in it. The conceit is that there's this company that has a floor, an archival floor they call the severance floor, and anyone who volunteers to work down there has an implant put in their brain that severs their work life from their personal life. So you go into an elevator, and as you descend to the severance floor, you basically black out, and the other side of your personality kicks in. So the people who work there, at the end of the day, at 5 o'clock, they go into an elevator to go back up, and they don't know anything other than going into an elevator and walking back out the next day, and they don't have any memory of what happens to the other personality when it's up on the surface, and the surface doesn't have any memory of what's happening down in the bowels of this building. And it is a very interesting, very weird, but very interesting series. I'm very curious to see where they take it. Obviously, there's a lot of allegories for work-life balance in there and mental health and all that stuff. But it is it's just a really, really fucking creative idea for a show. So I'm very curious to see where they take this.
That's awesome.
I would. I think you'd really dig it. And also, it's shot so beautiful. Ben Stiller directed the first 2 episodes. And I'll tell you what, very impressed. I know he's a director, but very impressed with these first 2 episodes.
Very cool.
Yeah. What do you got?
I just finally got caught up on Dungeons and Daddies. I've caught up to the future, and I gotta say, once again, great podcast. It's such a fun and funny podcast that is based in the D&D world, but god damn it, if they just don't throw out the rules and just be like, what's the coolest thing we can do? And so if you're trying to learn the rules of D&D, wouldn't recommend it for that, but it is highly entertaining. Freddie Wong, Matthew Arnold, Beth May, Will Campos, and it's DM'd by Anthony Birch. All of them very talented actors, directors, writers, and also some very cool, touching moments as well sprinkled in there, which is really cool. So highly recommend that. Dungeons and Daddies. Go listen to it. It is super entertaining. The episodes are usually like an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and they are so good. And they do a lot of really fun things with their cold opens, like Justin and I used to do back in the day. Freddie Wong spends like 2 weeks doing them for each time, like
Jesus,
because they record these once every 2 weeks. So it's really good. I can't recommend it enough if you're just looking to kind of just see some fun slapstick shit in a D&D environment. You've got Crit Roll on one end of the spectrum, which is really cool, very authentic to the D&D world, and on the other end of the spectrum you have Dungeons and Daddies, which is like, we're having fun over here. We're gonna make it real simple and really silly, and crazy shit's gonna happen, and it's very creative, and I can't recommend it enough. So please check that out. I'd recommend that. And while you're checking stuff out, please don't forget to check out Mind Gap on all of our social medias at Mind Gap Podcast. Please check us out at YouTube, youtube.com/MindGapPodcast. Drop us that like, drop us that subscribe. It means the world to us. And don't forget that we stream live every Tuesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Tuesdays is the podcast. Saturdays is the video game stream with myself. And also, don't forget to check out Justin online as well.
On Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcast, anywhere where you can find high quality podcast, you'll find us. Go ahead and share, subscribe, review, rate, all those things that we always ask you to do. And then keep an eye on 2east8th.com, and then all of 2 East 8th's social medias. And that's all I got.
Nice. Well, this has been another hoot and a half. I got to tell y'all, this has been a real just tickling me all over. Just being here with you again, and Justin, seeing you again just brings a light in my heart. I just feel as smug as a raccoon on roller skates. And yeah,
that's the thing.
That's the thing. So with that being said, I want to say, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you so much.
Chat, thank you.
Listeners, thank you.
And you all have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.